Hello, good morning, everyone. So let's have a quick daily briefing for today, and just a quick market recap on yesterday's data. Okay, so first things we have the JOLTS job openings for the month of May for US. So previous data was 9.193 M and forecasted at 9.388 million, and release time last night 10 p.m. And for the month of May, the JOLTS job openings for US was 9.209 million. So did not beat the market estimated data, but it beats the previous data. And we have the PMI for Canada for the month of June. So previous data was 64.7. And release time, same thing at 10 p.m. last night. And for the month of June, the PMI for Canada was 71.9. So this one was actually their record high due to the some businesses were lifted, especially on the manufacturing sector. And the last time that they've had a 71.9 for the PMI for Canada, it was the year 2020 for the month of April. But for the month of June, again, the actual data was 71.9. And since we have data for the US and Canada last night, so as you can see here on the USD against Canadian dollar on the 30 minutes time frame, the USD CAD was actually traded back and forth, and it made a significant move prior to the release for both data. So the pair was actually traded above the 1.2510 level and it retreated all the way to 1.2460. But during the Asian session, the current price for the dollar CAD was around the 1.2540. So even though the PMI for Canada was better than the previous one, so it should be better for the CAD, but it seems like the direction was actually opposite since the oil made a significant move the past few days. So that is why the USD CAD retreated on the upside. And economic data today. So earlier today we have the weekly crude oil stock, or the API, or the American Petroleum Institute. So previous data was negative 8.153 million and forecasted at negative 3.925, and release time 4:30 in the morning. And for the weekly crude oil stock, the actual data is negative 7.983 million. And right after the release of the weekly crude oil stock, there's actually no significant move and just a slight slip on the downside. But right here, what you're seeing, as you can see, as I've said earlier, the oil made a significant move the past few days. But there's actually no significant or factors that affect the oil when it comes to fundamental drivers. But if we're going to base on the technical bias, the crude oil was actually it hits the critical resistance around the 76.35, and from there it made a significant move on the downside. So from 76.35, it goes down below the 71.10 per barrel. So the 76.35 was actually their 6-year highs, and this one created a key zone right around here. And as of this moment, during the Asian session, the price of oil still remains at 71 per barrel. And aside from the weekly crude oil stock, during the Asian session, we have to focus on the unemployment rate for Switzerland for the month of June, later at 1:45 p.m. And US session, we have to focus on the weekly initial jobless claims at 8:30, and 11 p.m. we have the weekly crude oil inventories. So key products for today, First things, we have the dollar against the Swiss franc. So during the Asian session, we have or the current price of the USD against Swiss franc was around the 0.9256. But since we have the data for the US and Swiss franc later on, so if the data for Swiss franc beats the market expectation, so it may trigger the price of the dollar against the Swiss franc on the downside. And based on the calendar or the economic calendar, the data is actually expected to be much better comparing on the previous one. So the possible support for USD Swissie is 0.9228 and 0.9203. And the possible resistance is 0.9273 and 0.9292. Next thing is gold. During the Asian session, we have the current price is 1798.22 per ounce. But since we have the weekly initial jobless claims and followed by the crude oil inventories, so it may trigger the price of gold as well. And based on the calendar, the initial jobless claims is also expected to be much better comparing on the previous week. Possible support is 1795.15 and 786 or 1786.60, and resistance is 1811.11 and 1818.42 per ounce, respectively. So again, before the Asian closes today, we have a data for Switzerland, the unemployment rate for the month of June, 4 to 5 p.m. And for the US session, we have the weekly initial jobless claims and the crude oil inventories. All right, so thank you everyone for joining the daily briefing today. Stay safe and have a great day.